All right, I am Jamie Walker. I'm with HIWD 375 D01, Professor Rob Ritchie in Vietnam and Korean War class. I am here with Charles Allen Vaughan, who goes by Chuck. He was born in 1944, 74 years of age, and was born in Memphis, Tennessee. Served in Vietnam for 3 tours with the U.S. Marine Corps, and we're just going to go ahead and jump into this. What year did you join the Marine Corps?
1962.
62. What was your first assignment?
Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines in Camp Pendleton.
And that's an infantry unit?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And what was your MOS?
03.
03?
Then it went to 0311 when you make corporal.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. Okay. When did you first go to Vietnam?
March 1964.
And how old were you? Roughly?
20.
20? Okay. And in March of 1964, what area of Vietnam did you operate in?
We were operating out of Da Nang.
Okay. And you were still with 7th Marines?
No, I was with Task Element 79.3.3.6.
That's a mouthful. And what was your mission there?
We, as infantry, we guarded the helicopters as they were parked at night, and during the day when they would go out and ferry ARVN infantry and all of that, we would ride on the helicopters as kind of a safety guy, because some of the ARVNs would have VC sympathy, and they would get out of the choppers and they would leave a hand grenade in there live, or they would turn around and spray the helicopter as they ran away from it.
Okay.
So we were all just eyeballs and eyeballs watching everybody, and while they were riding out and as they got off. And then if we would ride the choppers back, and if any of the choppers went down, we would go out and be security for the chopper, sometimes overnight, until they could come in and get it.
So you were kind of like today's Marine Corps security forces.
Yeah.
Now whose helicopters were they? Were they Marine Corps?
They were ours. They were H-34s.
Okay.
The old bumblebee-looking thing had the pilot, co-pilot, crew chief, and sometimes a gunner.
Okay. What, in a greater sense, what did you at that time feel like the mission was in Vietnam for you and the other Marines?
Being young, it was just another assignment. We didn't see any war itself that we thought we were going to war, because it was doing those duties at night and during the day. And when we weren't on duty, we filled sandbags around we had a old French cantonment, and we would build up sandbags, 12, 15 feet high and 4 to 6 feet bags thick. And then in the evenings, we would they would have a 6x truck take us into Da Nang if we wanted to go, and we would be sitting there at the finest hotel in Da Nang on the balcony, drinking Cokes and steak sandwiches, and it was a real treat. The beer we didn't like too much, so we didn't drink it. It was called Bondi Bon or 33, and it was really bad. They examined it and they said, this is basically the same makeup as embalming fluid.
So when did you realize the war was being expanded?
After, let's see, we left in November, about Thanksgiving, went back to, and we met the battalion, which was Echo Company. I was in Echo Company 2-9 then, 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines, and we met them as they were going to Hong Kong, and all we had was our utilities, fatigues, whatever they call them, and so we had to buy some civilian clothes on ship so we could go into Hong Kong. Everybody thought we were officers because they were the only ones that got to wear civilian clothes, and we were all corporals. But and then we went back to Okinawa. I think we got to Okinawa January '64, and they were trying to build up various forces in Vietnam at the time, and they asked for volunteers for recon battalion. Now, I always wanted to be in recon, so I volunteered, and about the first part of March we went to Vietnam.
March of 65?
In 1965, and we joined Delta Company, 3rd Recon Battalion. We were one of the first Marines, not aviation oriented, in the country. And we would run local patrols around the air base, and then as we got more and more experience, because we were really pretty inexperienced for fighting a war. I mean, no war really since Korea, and we were too young to have been in that. So as we gained experience, our patrols went further and further out, and we tried to stay under the artillery umbrella, because you'd work 4 and 5 man teams sometimes, and even though everybody carried an automatic M14, you really couldn't really take care of yourself if you were discovered.
Now tell me, we had talked about it earlier, tell me again about where you were when the meth came ashore for the...
Oh, we were on the beach, sitting up on the beach at the tables out of the bar, and watching them come ashore.
Coming in Mike boats?
Yeah. And we were telling them, hey, look good, everything like that. And Lieutenant, don't drop your briefcase. One of the lieutenants was actually carrying a briefcase.
So not Tarawa?
No, definitely not. And then when they discovered no one was shooting on them, shooting at them, then everybody started, okay, let's get
formation,
flankers out, get in formation, and they kind of route stepped off the beach. And that was basically all it was to it. They didn't have anybody get shot at, to my knowledge, and that was about it.
Okay, so your second tour was with Recon.
Right.
What was your third tour?
My third tour, let's see, it started in 1969. I didn't think I was going to have to go back to Vietnam again, because most people didn't even have 2 tours.
Were you assigned stateside after you came back?
Oh, I went to be a drill instructor in San Diego after my second tour. And I spent time down from 1966 to the early part of 69. And then I had some by name orders. I was a staff sergeant by then, and I had orders to go back to Vietnam, which surprised everybody. I reported down to Camp Pendleton for Vietnam training, and the first sergeant that was there, I think it was first sergeant or sergeant major, I had been with him in recon. He told me to go home. He didn't want any of our salty attitudes down there trying to teach the troops. So he said, I'll call you when your flight comes back. So I went home for a little while, and then they called, and I went down, got on the plane, went right over.
Where were you assigned when you got there?
That's kind of a circuitous route. First of all, I went into the Combined Action Group headquarters. In fact, there were 219 people on the plane going over. Everybody stayed on Okinawa, they said, except for the 7 of us, and we were all recon or grunts on our third tour, and we were all staff sergeants. And so we went there, and we thought, well, we're going to CAG to be a platoon sergeant or company gunnery sergeants, things like that with the CAG. And we stayed down there a couple of weeks, just get pretty much oriented to what they were doing. And then all of a sudden we got transferred again up to Way, the old capital, and we hung around with MAC-V for a couple of weeks, and then they sent us down to Phu Bai. And that's where the 101st Airborne Division, I can't remember it was, and I can't remember if it was Camp Eagle or, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, that was where the 101st Airborne was. And we were there, we got off the choppers and we're waiting for a ride, and this Army Warrant Officer come up and said, you guys, you work for me now. And we went aboard the Army base there into a little cantonment that they had within the base with the barbed wire and their own hooches and everything like that. And that was about we led or went with groups of little people. Some of them were Hmong tribesmen, some were Montagnards, and some were
I'm going to pause you right there.
okay.
I'm going to